Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. We're finishing up our 2022 season previews as we take a look at the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is a team that I simply cannot wait to watch develop in the next couple of years. Marcus Freeman is a guy, I'm not even a Notre Dame fan, but you won't find a more charismatic coach in the whole country. Dill, did you get a chance to see the Notre Dame jersey reveal?
That is an incredible video. Props to Notre Dame because that's just like very funny. Yeah, that's a home run for them early in the season.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so he looks good off the field, but on the field, we haven't seen him yet. We saw him in the bowl game, but he's doing a hell of a job recruiting, getting the best players to come to Notre Dame. Top 3 recruiting class in the country. I think number 2 behind Ohio State. Again, you have to feel so confident with the hire. You could tell right when they announced it and all the players were in the locker room. They love this dude. They want to play for this dude. Before we get into actually talking about the team heading into 2022, just want to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown the channel. Been an absolute blast talking ball with you guys in the comment section. If you guys do like the content, you do like talking ball, consider subscribing to the channel. We really do appreciate it. Up to 1,400 subscribers. You guys are absolutely awesome with the support. So let's start talking some Notre Dame football. And I think we got to start on the offense side of the football. No more Jack Cohn. Tyler Buchner probably at the helm. What are your thoughts on this offense here?
I don't really know what to think about these two quarterbacks because I think they're one of those teams that had a good unit minus a quarterback who could consistently make plays for them. And
yeah,
Cohn's an okay player, but you can't really win at a super high level with him because he can't do anything special. But I don't really know what to think about this quarterback room. I'm not wildly excited about it, I don't think.
I'm wildly excited about Tyler Buchner. I think he's a good athlete, and he just hasn't played a lot of football. So he had an injury in high school, missed a year. Senior season, I believe, canceled because of COVID. Like, the dude hasn't played that much football, period. Played a little bit last year. Ups and downs. I mean, the offensive line really struggled. But going back to what you said, Jack Cohn was what he was. You brought him in as a veteran guy, Wisconsin grad transfer. You knew what you were going to get out of him. 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Took care of the football. That's that. Tyler Buchner kind of unlocks another level for this offense. He can move it with his feet. He has a good arm. He can create outside the pocket. He's just got to put it on the field. Unfortunately, his first game starting is going to be against Ohio State. But
but that's not been a historically great defense over the past couple of years.
That's fair.
Bottom tier.
That's fair. What I want to talk about more is the pass catchers. So you have Michael Mayer, the best, if not one of the best behind Brock Bowers, best tight end in the country. Bona fide stud. He should be a first-round pick, maybe even top 10. Really, really special guy. Don't need to talk much about him. We know what he is. What I'm more concerned with is what wide receivers am I watching last year that I'm scared of?
Lorenzo Styles. They didn't let him go off until the end of the season. And when they put him in against Oklahoma State, he torched them. I think he went for 8 catches, 136 yards. And if you watch the game, he was open constantly.
Yeah.
He looks like I don't know. I kind of wonder if he's like a great vertical threat or that wasn't his game in that game, but he looks like he's got the athleticism. I know he can work the field. I'm kind of interested. I mean, a true freshman last year who really tore up a good Oklahoma State secondary. I think he's going to be better than people think. I just don't think he was able to get going early enough to put the year out that people are like, wow, this guy is great.
And another guy you could add to the list is Avery Davis, assuming he comes back from the ACL. That really unlocks Notre Dame's potential on offense if they can find a guy that scares you on the perimeter. Again, you know Michael Mayer. He's going to probably catch for 1,000 yards. He's going to be one of the best, if not the best tight ends in the game. I need a playmaker outside on the numbers who can get in space and create some special stuff. If it's Lorenzo Styles, that'll be massive for this Notre Dame offense. At the running back spot, you lose Kyron Williams, and quite frankly, that running back, the running offense wasn't great last year, partially due to the offensive line and just the inexperience up front. But I really like the 2 backs you have coming back, specifically Chris Tyree. I think the dude is an absolute game breaker and adds a little bit more juice than Kyron Williams did. As good as
that's the thing. Chris Tyree is a guy who's going to make some 50-yard touchdown plays happen. part of his game. And you're right, it just wasn't Kyron Williams. And Kyron Williams, I think, is an underrated back. I think people got on him too hard. Like, yeah, he's not a great athlete, but when he looked good playing. But at the end of the day, he's way less talented than Chris Tyree, I think.
Yeah, I think Chris Tyree, again, that's kind of the story of this Notre Dame offense is they're getting guys who are coming back who haven't played a lot of football like Tyler Buckner, like Lorenzo Styles, like Chris Tyree, but they have more potential than their predecessors. Tyler Buckner offers more juice than Cohen. Chris Tyree probably offers more juice than Kyron Williams. The last part I want to talk about is Notre Dame's offensive line, historically a phenomenal unit, struggled early. And the media gets on it for struggling early. One, they were extremely young, like a true freshman playing at tackle. But you also opened up against Florida State, who had Jermaine Johnson, very good defensive line, Wisconsin, Cincinnati, and on the road at Virginia Tech.
Well, that's kind of my thing is people got on Blake Fisher, like a true freshman. It's like the first game you really ever played was against Jermaine Johnson. And yeah, Jermaine Johnson fed him a little bit. But Jermaine Johnson was feeding everyone. He was awesome. I think Blake Fisher down the stretch, he looks like a guy who might be top 10 talent. Like he looks really, really good in my mind. Good. So I think you're going to have one of the tackles really squared away. And I actually think the offensive line played pretty good down by the end of the year. It's like the unit kind of tightened up and was good. So I'm kind of expecting, I don't think it's going to be like your old school best O-line in the country units, but I think it's going to be way better than people think because they're really down on them from last year.
Two things I want to shout out. One, Jaret Patterson, probably one of the, if not the best center in the country, really like his game. And then Harry Heinstead coming back to Notre Dame to coach the offensive line. When you think of Notre Dame offensive lines, the elite groups, they were led by, as a fly flies into my face, they were led by him. And he's coming back, and I love the idea of him getting to work with these young guys and really developing them into studs that he's developed in the past. Guys like Quentin Nelson, Liam Eichenberg, those kind of guys. On the defensive side of the ball, I have less question marks. I really like this unit. We'll start up front. You mentioned a couple guys. Who's popping out on the defensive line here?
I mean, I think everybody knows Isaiah Foskey's really good. He's a premier pass rusher, I would say. But I think people got to watch out for Jason Adamiola.
Yeah, he's good.
They're not a big defensive line, especially in the middle, but they're athletic, and they all rush the passer because they're all too quick off the ball. They're in gaps. They're right by offensive linemen quick, and they're very disruptive in my mind.
I like the defense. I mean, Isaiah Foskey is a guy that he is a very, very good using the hand, getting on the outside edge, but also is really, really good in the run game. And that's rare for defensive end prospects being able to play the run game and get after the passer at a high level. Their linebackers, you lose a guy like Drew White, who was kind of the heart and soul captain of that defense. J.D. Bertrand had, over 100 tackles. The dude was a tackling machine. Maris Liafu coming back from, I believe, a broken leg last year, so he'll be back. Bo Bauer comes back. And then you have a guy, Jaden Sneed, coming in as a true freshman. And again, true freshman, it's hard to really produce year one. Jaden Sneed has the bones to produce.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a dog, you can play. That's the thing. These really good true freshmen can play at a high level now. So, and again, I think it's a good linebacker room, but it's not a room that a guy like a Jalen Sneed can't get some playing time. Yeah,
and then the secondary guys that you have like Cam Hart coming back, DJ Brown, some guys that you liked from last year coming back. What's the big storyline? Kyle Hamilton leaves. What's going to happen with how Kyle Hamilton, how's this Notre Dame defense going to look? He did miss 6 games last year, to be fair. You go get Brandon Joseph from Northwestern, who last year at this time was being talked about as the number 1 safety prospect in the country. And then
you know what? They have a hyper-motivated Brandon Joseph.
Oh, yeah.
A guy who played not great to his standard, but frankly, who knows if that was just Northwestern was so bad. Nobody could have played good on that team. So, but I think you got a guy who it wants to cement himself as the top safety, has the talent to do it, and I think is going to be wildly hungry to prove that he's that alpha dog that kind of you thought he was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I agree. Brandon Joseph has all the tools. You've seen him play as a number 1 safety in the country. It's just when Northwestern, you're getting beat by 21-plus points every game. it's kind of hard to play at your highest level when you're kind of surrounded by not so great talent. Granted, he wasn't great last year. I do think being with Marcus Freeman, being around the Notre Dame defense, I think it's going to bring the best out of him, and you're going to see an All-American level safety, Brandon Joseph, in 2022. The schedule for Notre Dame it's really hard. So let's get into it. You start
not like your normal Notre Dame schedule where you play a bunch of candy teams.
That's fair. Vegas sets the line at 8.5 wins. I have a hard time seeing them go 8-4. I think I'm leaning towards 9-3, but I have a few games circled. Obviously, you go to the shoe opening Saturday on the road against Ohio State, night game. That's going to be electric. Very hard team to beat, but I do think it's not out of the realm, especially with Jim Knowles and that new defense, how Ohio State's defense is going to look.
If they can get after him, like Michigan showed, if you can get after Ohio State, you can make it hard for them. And that is the strength of this Notre Dame team, is they're going to rush the passer on everybody.
Yeah, so I might not give Notre Dame that win, but I do think it'll be more interesting than people think. Then you have Marshall, Cal. What the couple of games I want to hit on is on the road at North Carolina, not an easy place to play. I do think Notre Dame should handle North Carolina without Sam Howell. They have a lot of question marks. Defense sucked last year. This is the big game, and this is like kind of what I think controls their season. So say you're 3-1 going into your off week, which I love before this game, and then neutral field, Las Vegas against BYU. One of the best games, I think, on the whole schedule for the whole year. What are your thoughts there?
Dude, BYU has a schedule that like they can be a playoff team because they're playing a lot of horses from the big Power Fives, and they're going to be a tough team. I mean, they're always kind of tough. I don't feel like they get blown out that often by anyone, but I do think Notre Dame should beat them, but like it's not a game you can write off. I don't think.
Oh, absolutely not. In neutral site, you might see more BYU fans kind of out on the West Coast, but that's the game that I have highlighted as not only a game that I'm just pumped to watch, but that either turns you into what, a 4-1 team or a 3-2 team, and that's a big swing heading into the latter half of the season. Stanford, UNLV, Syracuse probably take care of them. Clemson at home, that's going to be an interesting one. Navy, Boston College, you probably clean up, and then at USC, Notre Dame's used to kind of blowing the doors off this team.
This ain't the old Trojans, though.
No, it's not. And I'm not sold on USC yet just because you haven't seen them play good football yet, and it's legit been 5+ years since you've seen USC really compete. But on paper, that team is really talented.
Yeah.
And so there's 4 games that I have.
There's 4 tough. There's 5 games that like are legit. I mean, if you count UNC, there's 5 games that are not easy games. And then, I mean, Stanford's never like wildly easy. BC can muck up games. No, these are teams though that they can play you tight. Yeah, their offenses are kind of a little boring, but they just seem to play teams tough periodically. Yeah.
If Notre Dame's as good as I think they can be, they should be dropping those games. It really comes down to USC, BYU, you got Ohio State, and Clemson. And if they can win 2 out of those games, go 10-2, I think that's a really good first season for Marcus Freeman. I want to highlight before we get out of here is this is an important year for Marcus Freeman.
You don't want a down one, for sure.
You don't want a down one, but the next couple seasons under Marcus Freeman, you feel really good about. You'll have Tyler Buckner back. You bring in a sick 2023 recruiting class.
But that's the one threat. If you have like a 6-6 year something really bad, like you haven't completed that class. Like these guys are still visiting Alabama and in Oklahoma and Georgia. Like I just saw their top guy he's at Alabama now. So it's like Marcus Freeman can't put up a 6-6 because and I don't think he will. I'm not saying this to imply it, but it's a big year where you probably want to win 9 games, I think.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. I think they could drop
100%. But it's also reasonable that they lose 5. I don't think that's an insane possibility. So
yeah, this is one of the bigger seasons of college football because Notre Dame can really kind of start this dynasty going with Marcus Freeman if they can put together a good season. 100%. Guys, we'll end it on that. If you're Notre Dame, I feel like you're in very good hands with Marcus Freeman. I'm excited for you guys, even though I don't really like Notre Dame. Appreciate you guys checking us out, though, anyways. Again, even though I'm not a Notre Dame fan, consider subscribing to the channel because we do talk Notre Dame football on here. We appreciate the support, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.